Hello, and welcome to Markets in Focus. My name is Joe Bell, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the most interesting financial market themes that I'm observing. So first up, market breadth. This is something we've been discussing since early August. The weakening of market breadth, that started to improve in the fourth quarter, and we've continued to see that for the most part during the past several weeks. Number two, everybody's talking about consumer spending, but when you look at new orders from businesses, extremely strong, well above pre-pandemic levels. And finally, all of this demand, supply shortages has been the big story. Why some new data through the end of September is showing that perhaps small businesses are starting to replenish those inventories, and some of those shortages are perhaps in the early stages of improving. So market breadth, let's talk about this here. The orange line is the S&P 500. The blue line is the Bloomberg cumulative advanced decline line for New York Stock Exchange equities. So what's that mean? I know it's a mouthful. It's basically a running tally of the market breadth, the running tally of the number of stocks that are up versus the number of stocks that are down. When it's going higher, that means more up stocks than down stocks and vice versa. So what do we have here on the chart? You can see through the end of mid-August or so, S&P 500 made a new high. This is not new. We talked about this several weeks ago. We put out a piece called Cracks in the Foundation back in August as well. Well, since then, we've had the 5% pullback, right? But the S&P 500 has regained the new all-time highs with a strong rally back. But the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline line has not quite made new highs yet. So technically that divergence remains in place, but there are some encouraging signs. We've seen continued strong breadth during the start of October. If we continue to see this strong day yesterday as well, perhaps this will be resolved in the coming weeks if that exchange breadth line rather will make a new high. Now, in terms of new orders, I talked about business spending. This is capital goods, new orders, non-defense, excluding aircraft. And again, a lot of disclaimers there, but what's this tell us here? You can see it's at an all-time high. It jumped up 0.8% during the month of September. That's 18% above its pre-pandemic levels. Now, what's this show us? Everybody knows consumer spending has been extremely strong with the federal government stimulus, direct payments, the amount of savings that consumers have. They've been strong. They've been spending money. But businesses and capital expenditures starting to spend money as well, partially related to that consumer demand. But if you think of it from an economic growth perspective, this strong business spending could offset any potential slowdown in consumer spending. And finally, a lot of talk about supply shortages. U.S. inventory over the past 3 months from small businesses, the NFIB small business surveys, about 800 companies participate in that, showing a 3% increase over the past 3 months. That's significant. That's the highest rate of growth for this figure since all the way back in June 2019. So obviously businesses are responding to the big pickup in demand. And the fact that we're starting to see inventories grow rather than a shortage of supply, that's a good sign. That's what we want to see because, of course, over the next year or so, industries and companies want to adjust to the changing demand dynamics that have occurred and continue to be in place. And if we eventually get these supply shortages and potentially labor shortage to alleviate some pressure from some of the companies throughout the economy, I think this is a good start from an economic perspective. And then finally, interesting story out of San Francisco. Waymo has driverless cars that they are testing throughout the San Francisco area. And there's one tiny neighborhood that apparently has been caught off guard. They're seeing Waymo vehicle every 5-10 minutes throughout the week, many residents working from home, and the same Waymo vehicles are driving to the end of the cul-de-sac, turning around and just leaving the neighborhood again and again and again. All right, so residents don't know what's going on. They're asking the drivers that are sort of manning the vehicles there, and they say it's just doing what it's programmed to do. Waymo officials have basically said they're following certain signages within the city, and they're following the laws. And at this point, they had to do a U-turn. And this, for some reason, this neighborhood ended up being the most efficient place for them to do that U-turn. I guess just to note here that perhaps of all the concerns and issues people have for driverless cars, perhaps minor traffic and neighborhood inconveniences was not at the top of the list, but perhaps that may be the biggest one of them all. So with that, I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.